Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. It is finally that time of the month where we talk about my December wrap up. So December was a really weird month for me. I mean, I feel like I was like in limbo a little bit and I ended up burning myself out only because I read a lot of fantasy. I mean, did I plan it? No. Were some of these books on my TBR? Yes, so that's a win. I also did plan on reading a few Christmas books. Did I read any? One, and it was a novella. So, needless to say though, even though I was like in this weird funk in December, I did manage to read 10 books, and a lot of these books were really chunky because again, they were romantasies. And you know what? Looking back now, thinking that I was in this weird funk in December, I read a lot of great books, a lot of really hyped up books, and some of these were overly hyped in my opinion. Don't come at me, but then most of these were worth the hype, and one literally got me on a chokehold. We'll talk about it in a second. Before we get into this video, if you haven't already, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. That way you never miss another one of my videos. Moving on, let's talk about the first book in December that I read. I started it off strong by reading Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This was a 5-star, obviously, and it is hyped for a reason. I mean, we have a shadow daddy, we have alchemy magic, we have an incredible world, an incredible frosty, wintry world. We have a, how should I describe the main female character's personality? She's strong and she's fierce, but she's also very weak because she is a human. We have a romance between a human and a shadow daddy, and the mouth on Kingfisher. The mouth on this man was just everything, okay? I'm not really gonna go over a lot of the synopsis of each book because we all know most of what these books are about. I will tell you a little blurb. I had a great time reading this book. At first, it took me a while to get into just because you're kind of thrown into the world right away, and there was a lot of info dumping for me anyways, considering the fact that I am like not this like hardcore fantasy reader yet. I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet. And so like the beginning of the book was quite slow for me, but I did have a great time. I did enjoy the characters. I did enjoy the plot of this book, and I also really did enjoy the romance. So again, 5-star. A girl with a strange power is transported to a land of ice and snow where she must navigate a centuries-long conflict between the Fae and humans, all while trying to survive and make it back home. That's pretty much it. If you haven't read Quicksilver yet, I suggest you do because it's such a great romantasy. It's so good. It's perfect for the wintry season. It's perfect for this time of year because it does take place in this snow-filled winter-esque world. Then I read the only Christmas-themed book, and it's not even a book, it's a novella, for the month of December, which is part of Under the Mistletoe collection, which is a collection of short novellas written by different authors, different well-known authors. The very first one is A Cruel Winter with You, and this one's written by Ali Hazelwood. It was good. I had a great time reading it. This was a 5-star read for me. Even though it was short, sweet, I wanted more from the characters because I just enjoyed how Ali Hazelwood wrote this story. And all I'm gonna say about this one is that it takes place in the holiday season. It's a childhood friends to lovers trope, and they get snowed in, and so feelings immerse. So that's pretty much all I'm gonna say. I don't want to give anything away, but I did have a great time. This was a very fun, quick, and easy way to introduce the month of December for me with all the holidays and the wintry, Christmassy vibes. So I had a great time with this one. Just in time for January 21st, I did end up finishing Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. The only reason why I didn't give it a 4.5 was because, again, in the beginning of this book, there's a lot of info dumping, and I felt like it was very slow, which is why I took a break last year from it and only read up to page 200. But when it picked up, it was my life, my soul, my everything. I lived, breathed, and tasted the story, if that makes any sense. This was so good. It literally reminded me of why I love fantasy in the first place, because with fantasy books, sometimes the pacing of these books are so hard to stick with because there's a lot of info dumping, there's a lot of political intrigue, there's a lot of information all at once thrown at you that you must make sure that you pay attention to. But when you get towards like the second half or more than halfway through the book and it starts to pick up and everything starts to make sense to you, the long drawn out slow burnness of the book and the story was so worth it because of where it's headed towards, if that makes any sense. I'm going to tell you this. What the fuck was this ending? Can you guys agree with me? What was this ending? I had no idea. I don't really think I saw this coming at all for some reason, which makes sense that the story is now heading towards this way. But what are we gonna do in book 3? What's gonna happen to one of the main characters in this book? If you know who I'm talking about, you know. The fact that the book ended this way, jaw-dropping, I was like gutted from the inside out, jaw on the floor, did not know what to do with myself. I actually kind of went into a book slump because nothing compared to this. And I was like so shocked, okay? I was so shocked from what happened and also bummed that I don't have my hands on Onyx Storm yet. The only good thing about picking this book back up where I left off was the fact that I don't have to wait that long. I know some of you read this book last year and had to wait a whole year for Onyx Storm, but I'm lucky enough to just have read it and finished it and devour it in December. So now I only have a few weeks to wait for the next book, and I'm so hyped for that book. I'm anticipating it's going to be such a great book. But anyways, yeah, that's where I was left off. After I read this, I went into a little bit of a book slump, and nothing I picked up got my attention. Nothing I started reading really grasped my attention like I wanted it to, because I was in this book slump limbo with Iron Flame. Such a good book, you guys. Obviously, this is the second book in the Empyrean series, and I just can't wait for Onyx Storm. Like, I am so freaking excited. The rest of the month is going to be dedicated to Onyx Storm. I am going to live, breathe, and eat Onyx Storm towards the end of the month, and that is going to be my personality and my life, and I'm here for it. I can't wait. So because of that, I decided, let's just jump into another very well-known romantasy. So I finally did pick up The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. And I am so sad to say that I gave this book a 3. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, don't attack me. I know this is a well-beloved series, and I was just not into it. Okay. The reason why is because it could have been timing. I'm a strong believer that if it doesn't matter how hyped up or how good a book is, if you are not in the right mindset and if you're not craving that book and if you're not in the mood, I strongly believe that it doesn't matter. Your rating is going to reflect that. And I think personally, this is what happened to me. I have no idea why, because we have a romance between a human and a vampire. We have deadly trials. We have the whole bite scene. We have steam. We have action. But I feel like the way that it was executed was not for me. I don't know how else to describe this, but when I looked up Goodreads and other people's reviews on this book, there's this one girl's review that really stood out, and what she said basically is exactly how I feel about this book. What she said was, this is more of a plot-driven book. That's great and all, but when you, like myself, are a person that really likes character development and the plot kind of takes the front row and the characters are kind of just pushed back and kind of forgotten, it is hard for me to believe the romance, believe in the characters, root for the characters, care about the characters in a sense. And that's what I felt myself doing throughout this entire book. When the plot takes the front row seat and the characters are kind of forgotten, again, it's one of those things where why should I even care where this story is going? Why should I even care where the romance is going? And so because of that, because of the lack of character building, it just wasn't for me. I didn't understand and realize that I am more of a character development kind of reader than I am a plot. Like, you can give me all plot, the greatest plot, action-packed, with all the bells and whistles, but if the characters are kind of one-dimensional, then it doesn't really matter to me where the story heads or where the romance heads. Everybody loves the main male character, Rain, I think his name is in this book. I did not care for him. I thought he was annoying, I thought he was an asshole, and I did not... I don't know, you guys. It's really hard for me to kind of like describe my feelings with this book, but unfortunately it's one of those books that is, I don't know if I really think this is worth the hype. From my personal experience, from my reading experience, it's a good concept, there's a good plot, but the characters are lacking. And if the characters are lacking in any story, I don't care enough for them to even care where the story goes or where the romance goes. Even though this book ended on a really great cliffhanger, I don't know when I'm going to be picking up the next book, to be honest with you, because it just did not feel like a good enough experience for me to just jump into the next book. So I'm so sorry. It's a 3-star. Then I wanted to change my palette a little bit, and I wanted to jump into my very first dark mafia romance just to take a step back from fantasy. So I ended up reading Marriage and Malice by Trisha Wolfe. This is obviously a dark mafia romance, and it's the first book in the Broken Arrow series. I don't understand this series, honestly. I think it's an interconnected series with another series combined, but they are all standalone romances. So I'm glad that I was able to pick this one up. I did enjoy my reading experience with this one. I gave this one a 4. The reason why I gravitated towards this one, it's because it's a dark mafia romance, marriage of convenience, enemies to lovers, forced proximity. All the freaking tropes that I like in a romance were in this book. And it did not disappoint. The narrators didn't disappoint. And I had a great time reading it. This is a marriage of convenience between two rivalry mafias. One is Italian and the other one is, I believe, Irish, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah. That's all I'm gonna say. It was really spicy. It was really good. The tension and the angst was there, and it was a good time. Then I went back into fantasy. So I jumped into A Courting of Bristol Keats by Mary E. Pearson. And listen, this was a 3 for me. I gave this a 3 because this is literally advertised as an epic enemies to lovers romantasy. It even says dangerous fae, dark secrets, addictive romance. This is about a human girl set in a fae world. And it had so much potential, okay? The Fae world was there. The weak link of a human who falls in love with the Fae main male character was there. But just the way that the characters were executed was just so disappointing to me because, I don't know, maybe I'm superficial or something, but when I'm going into an addictive romantasy like this, or so it says, I'm expecting our characters to look beautiful. Very attractive human being looking characters with just pointy ears, okay? But the characters in this book, the way that they're described, the fae in this world, the way it's described with horns and hoofs and goat tails, it just kind of distracted me and steered me away from the story itself. And call me superficial, but again, like, I do like books that incorporate very different looking creatures like that. I did enjoy Legends of Lattes because I knew I was going to get myself into a world like that. But when the book is kind of advertised as this, you know, like these looking couples where you just think they have pointy ears and they're just very attractive people, but then all of a sudden the main female character has like freaking nails and claws and hoofs and horns and fucking weird shit, it just steers me away from the romantasy aspect of it itself. I just couldn't get past that, you guys. Call me petty, but I couldn't get past that. I mean, it had great potential. The storyline was there. The way that the plot was executed was there. It was interesting, but not in a sense of what I like my romantasy fae worlds to be. There was also a mystery between the main male character's family, and I didn't care. I really didn't care about the mystery. I was there because it was advertised as being one of the best romantasies. I did not get that. So because of that, I focused my energy on thinking that this is going to be one of the best romantasies I read, with a lot of romance, but the romance was kind of like a subplot, and the mystery of the book kind of took the front seat, and it bugged me. It bugged me because I wasn't there for the mystery. In this story, we're following Bristol Keats, and she is a regular human living in a regular human world until she mysteriously gets a letter from her aunt, and the story pretty much picks up from there. The story follows her coming to realize that what has been done to her family, her parents, might not necessarily be true, or the life that she was living with her family turned out to be a lie, and so we're following her as she navigates through going into a new fae world and realizing that there's fae people in this new world, coming to find out that maybe her father is still alive. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say about this book. Again, 3-star. Not my favorite. Then I decided to jump into another dark mafia romance, and this one is a dark college mafia romance and is the one and only God of Malice by Rena Kent. This is the first book in the Legacy of God series. Everybody and their moms talks so highly about this series. I gave this book a 4.5. It wasn't necessarily a 5 because it just wasn't, something was missing, I feel like. And I'm gonna tell you something, I've kind of run into this problem when I'm reading dark romance. I get so tired of the repetitiveness of the characters being so damn dark and cruel that I'm just like, okay, on with it. Already confess that you love her. Already just give in. You know, like, I don't know why, but I tend to get bored at some point during a dark romance. And I mean, I haven't read a lot of dark romances. The only books that haven't done that to me was The Cat and Mouse Duet by H.D. Carlton. But this, the same thing, which is why I feel like I only gave it a 4.5 instead of a 5. Don't get me wrong. It is very good. And it's super dark. But to me, like, what is dark in a fiction book? Like, how dark is it? Because I feel like the first couple of chapters, everybody explains it to be like super insanely dark. It is terrifying to read. It is hard to even want to continue and like the main male character based on the things that he does to Glendon, our main female character. But I had no problem with it. I don't know what that says about me and my morals, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first couple of chapters. Were they insane? Yes, but not enough to steer me away because, again, at the end of the day, this is a fiction book. It's all for fun. So I really didn't take that serious. Is it the darkest thing I feel like people state it to be? No. I mean, there was one scene. Was it messed up? Yeah, but it wasn't like dark to the point where like, F this book, I'm not gonna read the rest of it. Anyways, in this book, we're following Killian and Glendon, and they're part of two different families that don't necessarily like each other or don't necessarily surround themselves in the same social circle. Killian is very dark. He's morally black. His thoughts are very concerning, and things that excite him are not necessarily what a normal person would get excited over. He's very sick in many ways. His mentality is very dark, but it's the things that he does for Glendon, despite the fact of their not so meet cute interaction the first time around, that really gets me as a character. I mean, character development in this book is a masterpiece. I hated him at first, and then I really liked him based on his actions that kind of sold it for me. And then Glendon is this rich little preppy girl. Their personalities cannot be so different and out of this world, but for some reason they make a very good couple and they understand each other in this sick and twisted dark way. I will say though, like, if you have issues with sexual assault, this is thrown in this book quite a bit. So if that is something that triggers you, maybe not read it, because I could see how disturbing that can be for some people. 4.5, it was good. It wasn't like, I just feel like this is not everything, you know? Like, I feel like this is not anything and everything that people hype it up to be. Is it a good story? Yes. Is it good banter? Yes. Is it a great morally black character? Yes. Is a storyline there? Of course. Did I enjoy the steamy scenes? I did. But I don't feel like this is like the greatest thing. I was so sorry. Even though it's still a good book and I did give it a 4.5, again, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just not this hardcore die fan of dark romance. I mean, I did love Hunting and Haunting Adeline, but this was just something different for me. I enjoyed it, but I think it's not like the best thing in the world. I hope that review made sense, because, I mean, it sounded a little negative, but it's not. It's just, I don't know. I was expecting more from it, even though it gave a lot. I just don't know how to feel about that book. I did enjoy it again, but like, it's just everybody will die on that hill for this book, and I thought it was okay. I mean, it's still a great rating, but I didn't think it was everything. Then I read A Fire in the Sky by Sophie Jordan. Freaking, where has this book been all my life? The reason why I read this book and I jumped on it is because when I first got this was Fairy Loot's 2024 November pick of the month, and I had no idea what it is, because obviously this cover is gorgeous, but I had never heard of it. I didn't really care for it, so I just put it on my shelf and decided to read it when I felt like I wanted to. Fairy Loot posted on Instagram the tropes in this book: dragons, witches, marriage of convenience, and I'm sold. There's also a Viking main male character. Come on. This was so freaking good. This book was so addicting. If I didn't say it, I gave this book a 5. It was a no-brainer. It was quick, fast-paced, addicting. The world that it's set in is interesting because it's like in this like Viking-esque era, and it's also wintry themed. In this world, dragons are extinct, or they're so to be extinct, and we're following Tamsin, and we're also following Fell. Now, Tamsin is what you would call a whipping girl in this world, which is interesting but tragic at the same time. A whipping girl is basically an orphan child that was given to the palace at the doorstep, who is there to serve the royals. The reason why they are called whipping boys and girls is because when the princesses or the princes of the palace get in trouble or do something bad, they don't get whipped or they don't get punished, but the whipping boy and girl does. So the whipping boy and girl serves the royals as a form of punishment for the royals themselves. The only good thing about this is that she is she's not really treated like a servant. She is treated like one of the royals in the palace. She is given all the fancy dresses and gowns and gets to attend the balls and has a beautiful room and is well respected. But again, she endures the pain when punishment comes. Fel is the captain of the guard, and he is basically the beast of the guards, meaning his sole purpose is to protect the outer layers and borders of this kingdom from dragons or witches, because in this world, dragons or witches should not exist. They should be extinct, and if they're not, they will be basically executed. So once they have a meeting and the king is like, we really appreciate you for who you are and all the years of protection you have provided. We are at your mercy. We are at your service. We are at your debt. And so Fel decides, I think I'm going to take you up on that offer and I will cash in my debt. And what I want from you is I want you to allow me to marry one of your daughters. I want to marry a princess. And the reason why Fel wants to marry a princess is because he wants to be able to build that alliance so that he has a better say in what decisions the kingdom can make. He knows that war is coming and he wants to be able to be respected and his word taken into consideration. The thing is about this book is that it's so freaking good. The political intrigue on this is so conniving and so interesting. So what ends up happening is the king is like, of course, I will allow you to marry one of my daughters, no problem. Shall I say more? And when the ceremony happens, it is in this kingdom's traditions that you cannot really see your bride until you consummate the marriage. So the bride-to-be is covered in a veil. She has all kinds of weird looking contraptions on her, covers up her face for who she is. So of course the king is such a conniving prick that he decides, I will marry him with one of my daughters, but it's not going to be an actual princess. It's going to be the whipping girl, Taryn. The ceremony, the wedding ceremony in this is so freaking good, you guys. The story goes from there. Can I mention also that this is also an enemies to lovers? And I had no idea where this story was going. And towards the end of the book, plot twist, jaw-dropping freaking plot twist. I did not see that coming and I was shooketh. Okay, it was so freaking good. I have not enjoyed myself reading a fantasy, and I have not read a fantasy so quickly in my life as I did this one. 5 stars. I don't know why this is not talked about more often. I mean, you've got enemies to lovers, freaking betrayal, okay? Marriage of convenience, dragons, witches, magic, wintry setting. Read it. It's really good. Then I finally picked up Once Upon a Broken Heart, the first book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy by Stephanie Garber. 3.5. I'm sorry. You know what I think? I think I missed my time on this. I think this felt so YA-ish that I really didn't care. Like, yes, I know that the storyline is very, very interesting and it's plot driven and it's action packed and it's full of whimsy and magical elements and beautiful creatures and beautiful world, but I did not care. It was also very fast paced, you guys. I feel like, again, I missed my mark on this. I feel like it's very YA to the point where I feel too old to appreciate it for what it is. And also maybe it could be timing. It could be the fact that I didn't enjoy it because I wasn't really in the mood for it. After like reading this, getting off of like a high from this really didn't do anything for me. And I'm so sorry to say this. You guys are gonna hate me for this. I didn't hate the book. I did still end up giving it a 3.5, but it was a letdown for me because it wasn't what I thought it was gonna be, or I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was gonna enjoy it. And can I say, when am I gonna like Jax? Because I really didn't like him that much in this book. I think he's a selfish bastard. And don't get me wrong, I love myself a character like that because I know they have potential to grow and be better. But I just... Also, the main female character was very young and naive and just... I don't know, you guys. I'm so sorry. 3.5. Then I ended this month with another 5-star, and that is freaking Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. I just want to eat, breathe, live freaking dragons all my life. Please recommend me more dragon books. I love the way that this book is written. I love how strong the main female character is. I love that this book kind of reminds me of a very simmered, milder version of Game of Thrones because we have a princess, an exiled princess. We have have amazing dragon bond that she has with 5 or 6 of her dragons. We have a plot for revenge. We have just everything that you would love in a dragon book. We have a romantasy. We have freaking Caden, the main male character in this book. Not only is his mouth great, but the things that he does for her are just so fucking good. Like, the things that he does for her are just out of this world, top tier. An exiled princess teams up with the last man she thought she could trust in the start of a dazzling and unforgettable epic fantasy romance series. In this book, we're following Elowen, and she is ripped away from her dragons because she has this unspeakable connection and bond with her dragons that is so powerful that is a potential threat. Because of this, her father, the king of this kingdom, decides to exile her and punish her for it, starting at the age of 4, I think. She escapes and leaves her dragons behind, but the whole plot of this book is her trying to seek revenge and trying to unleash her dragons and free them. She teams up with Caden, who is the commander of this world, teaming up against the king himself. They team up to help her get her dragons back. And the reason why Caden wants to team up with her is because he also wants to build that alliance with the Lady of Dragons so that when war comes and he can help his people, she is on his side in the battlefield. We're following this forbidden love, this kind of slow dance of a romance between these two characters. The plot is so good. The banter is so good. Caden's mouth is filthy, and he is just the most romantic. If I could describe this book in one word, is romantic. The love that these characters have with each other, the loyalty is so romantic in this book. It's written so well. It's also very short, quick, and fast-paced. The narrators are just exceptional in this book. I just enjoyed it so much, you guys. I want to read more books like this. I want to be so enthralled in a book. It took me a day and a half to binge this book. It was so good from start to finish. Where the story was headed, how the story begins, like, it's just so damn good. Also, the fact that the main female character is this strong, resilient woman who doesn't give a shit who she pisses off. And it's just so awesome to watch her thrive in this story and just be a badass and fight her way through revenge. Like, seek her revenge and get it. I can't wait for book 2. This was such a great way to end my December. Weird reading slump month. Like, way to end my December in this really great fantasy. I don't hear a lot of people talk about this. I feel like this is an underrated book. I feel like there is some people talking about it, but not enough. And I don't understand why, because it was so freaking good. So there you have it. Those are the 10 books that I read this month. And I mean, even though, like I said, I started the month off really weird with like a funk, I ended it really strong reading Fear of the Flames, and I'm so glad I jumped into that book right away. I am so happy that my month ended that way. I want to read, again, more romantasy dragon books. Please, you guys, if you've read any other books that kind of give you the same vibes as Iron Flame, or even though they're totally different books, Iron Flame or Fear of the Flames or A Fire in the Sky, please send them my way, because I just want to read anything and everything dragon. And if there's a romance, yes. And if you've read this book, please let me know, because again, I don't hear anybody talking about it, and it's such a shame because it's such a good damn book. So there you have it. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and I will catch you on my next one. Bye!